Hello, my name is Pavan Kumar and welcome to my YouTube channel. Guys, continuing our playlist towards Python programming, understand string. So let's take an example of name is equal to any word. We'll just mention it as history. Okay. So I have given name as a variable and I have assigned history for that particular variable. And now let's try to run this particular cell. Okay, now let's try to understand what type of data type is name. As I told you, string in Python programming is represented as str. Now let's see what type of data type is name. So name is a string data type. As I told you, like name or string is represented by double quotes or a single quote. Now let's try to understand with respect to the single quote whether do we get the same output or not. We'll give name as national. Okay, let's make it as name one of national. And now let's try to run this particular cell. And now let's try to understand the type of name one. Now what might be the output, guys? So this is also a string. So string is basically represented with either single quotes or double quotes. Okay, so now let's try to understand the fourth data type, that is Boolean. Okay, so in your school days or a college days, or if you are an engineering student, you might have studied a subject called discrete mathematics. Okay, so where you have studied true, false and all. And if you have studied a logic gates in your engineering days, you might have studied about logic gates like AND gate, OR gate, NOT gate, XOR gate. Okay, so let's see like what are the different types of logic gates here. Probably then you might get an idea. Logic gates with respect to the truth table. Okay, so you might have studied AND gate, OR gate, XOR gate, NOT gate, NAND gate and all. Okay, so there you might have studied true, false and all. Okay, so here we'll try to understand true and false with respect to the Boolean operations in Python programming. Okay, suppose let's take an example of true and true. So what is the value, guys? If you have studied discrete mathematics, what is the value of true and true? Okay, yeah, that's correct, it's true. Okay, so let's take an example of true and false. What might be the output? Let's see. False. Okay, so let's see with respect to false and true. So this is also false. So and we'll see with respect to false and false. Okay, so this is also false. Okay, so this is all about like a Boolean data type in Python programming. So we'll see with respect to the data types and how we exactly learn a Boolean operation with respect to data types. Okay, so let's take an example of let's take an example of b is equal to 5. Okay, and now let's run this particular cell. And suppose if we want to see what type of data type b is equal to 5, and if we want to see with respect to Boolean operation, so then what might be the answer, guys? I have given b is equal to 0. Don't worry why I have given b is equal to 0. Okay, then I will tell you why exactly I have given variable b is equal to 5 and why we are getting this particular Boolean value as the output. Okay, so print bool of b. So what might be the value? Exactly, the answer will be true. Okay, so when you define a variable, so here I have taken example as b is equal to 5, and the number is greater than 0. Okay, so any value if you give to a variable, for example any number which you give like 1 2 3 or anything, 1 2 3 4 34 or anything which you give, if it is greater than 0 and if you try to print the boolean value for that particular variable, the answer will be always true, guys. Suppose if I take an example of h is equal to 0. Okay, and now try to run this particular cell. Okay, and now if I want to check the boolean value for that particular variable h, then it will be, sorry I have missed boolean operation. Okay, and suppose if I want to check this particular value, means it will print false. Okay, so whenever you assign a variable with 0, the answer will be always false with respect to boolean data type, and anything which is greater than 0, and even if you give b is equal to 0.1, and even if you give 0.1 also, the answer will be true, guys. Okay, so when you assign a variable with respect to a value which is greater than 0, then the answer will be always true, and when you assign a variable which is equal to 0, then the answer will be always false. Okay, so we'll take an example of we'll take another example, and now let's try to understand that. Okay, suppose if I give x is equal to 150.25. okay, and what is the type of data type, guys? So this is a data type of, and you all know that this is a float data type. Okay, suppose if I want to represent x in terms of integer, means what you have to do is print off, and I want to represent in terms of integer, means int of x. So what might be the output, guys? So integer means it should be a non-decimal number, so we have given variable x is equal to 150.25. so what might be the output, guys? Let's try to run and check it out. So it should be 150. okay, we are getting 150 exactly. Suppose if I want to check the data type of x, means we can directly check type of x, which will give it as float. Okay, and suppose let's take an example of integer 145. okay, let's take an example of variable y is equal to 145, and suppose if I want to represent y in terms of float, means print of float of y. okay, and now suppose if I run this particular cell, means it should give 145.0. yeah, it's giving 145.0. okay, so this is how we represent integers as float, and floating numbers as integers in Python programming with respect to variable and data types. Okay, so this is all about the data types in Python programming. So in the coming days we'll try to understand more number of other data types like list, tuples, and some other data types in Python programming. Okay, so today we have understood with respect to very basic concepts in Python programming on data types, and using variables with respect to the conversion of or the representation of type data types, or like we can say like a representation of integer numbers as floats and floating point numbers as integers with respect to the data types. Okay, So that's all about this particular video, and I hope you like this particular video. Please just subscribe to my channel if you not already subscribed. See you and all. Thank you. Bye bye.